You said you married me because I have strong arms to cultivate yam, Abi? Good. Then try me, Okoro. Try me. I will use these same hands to pound you like fufu. I cannot suffer in my mother's house and still come here to suffer. From today, it is fire for fire. Hit me once, I will hit you 10 times. A long, long time ago, in the bustling kingdom of Umuofia, there lived a man called Okoro. Okoro was a very wealthy man who owned vast palm plantations and a booming palm oil business in and beyond the borders of Umuofia. In fact, when you mention the names of wealthy men in Umuofia kingdom, Okoro's name would always sit proudly among the top 3. Besties, if you've ever seen a man whom words alone cannot describe enough, then that man is Okoro. Okoro. Okoro was a true character, one of those people whose very shadow carried drama. A man with so many flaws that his name was on the lips of every living thing in the village. Chickens, goats, children, market women, even the old men sitting at the village square, everybody had something to say about Okoro. But the villagers never simply called him Okoro. No, they had gifted him a nickname that clung to him like palm oil on white clothes. Okoro the Rooster. And I know you may be wondering why. It is because Okoro was as loud as a rooster at dawn. In fact, people often swore that his mouth was louder than a talking drum and his heart harder than iron. From the way he strutted about the market square, like a proud but pudging rooster, chest puffed out, chin high, you would think he owned not only the village, but the people, the land, and even the air they breathed. Some strangers even mistook him for the king, and even goats shifted aside when Okoro passed, as if they too knew trouble was approaching. Okoro derived joy from boasting about his wealth and telling everyone his net worth. At the palm wine joint, his voice was always the loudest, drowning even the songs of crickets at night. He would pound his chest and say, "You won't believe this. The last time I counted my palm trees, it was over 10,000, and they're all healthy and producing. No one in the entire kingdom of Umuofia can boast of such wealth. Even the king himself invited me to the palace to shake my hand." Okoro is not a small name. It will take years to count my money. I am Akwaguago, a man whose wealth is endless. And then, in the middle of his bragging, he would suddenly burst into loud laughter. Laughter so violent that it shook the raffia roof of the palm wine joint, like someone being tickled by spirits. The men around him would immediately rise, clapping, hailing, chanting his name. Odogu, Akwaguago, Okoro the big name. Okoro's pride would swell so big that it almost floated him off the ground. He would lift his shoulders like a cock about to crow and laugh again, shaking his head as if even his own words were too sweet for his ears. "Serve everyone," he would shout at the palm wine seller. "Give them drinks, give them meat, let them eat and be merry. Okoro is here." And immediately the feast would begin. Goat's meat on sticks, plates of nkwobi, jugs of palm wine flowing like rivers in flood season. The men would eat and drink until their bellies stood like drums, while Okoro continued his dry and boastful speeches. And the men, they cheered him on with fake laughter and fake hails. Who cared about the boasting, as long as they filled their belly? To them, Okoro could call himself king of Umuofia, emperor of the world, even the second sun in the sky. What mattered was that their belly was being filled with meat and wine. But pride was not the only problem Okoro had. No, his biggest problem was women. Yes, you heard me right, women. Okoro had plenty of money, and to make matters worse, he was extremely handsome, tall, dark, fine stature, broad shoulders, just the exact way women loved their men. But behind that fine packaging was nothing but disaster wrapped in good looks. Okoro was hard-hearted, that he was considered the worst nightmare any woman could ever face. It was dangerously easy for him to get any woman he wanted. All he needed to do was throw a little money around, buy one or two flashy gifts from the market, cheap things, but since they were coming from Okoro, the women would jump up with joy as though he had given them gold from the king's palace. After all, if it came from Okoro, then it must be very expensive, Abi. But the moment he paid your bride price, my sister, you were done for. No matter how radiant or beautiful you were before entering his house, just give Okoro 3 months, only 3 months, and you will be looking like your wrinkled ancestral great-grandmother. Tofiakwa, what a curse. You see, Okoro never saw women as human beings. He believed women were properties that could be bought, owned, and used by men. He believed women were created only to serve men and nothing more. And so, Okoro did the unimaginable to his wives. Just think of any cruel thing a man could do to a woman. Okoro had already done it, and worse. If you ever saw him beating his wives, you would think it was a professional drummer rehearsing beats for evil spirits. His blows and slaps had rhythm. He punished them the way an adult punishes a stubborn little child. And his wives were always terrified, too scared to even breathe the wrong way around him. There was one day his wife Oma accidentally burnt a pot of yam. What did Okoro do? He commanded her to carry the whole burnt pot and kneel under the scorching hot sun until he decided otherwise. And to him, that was a very lenient punishment because she was pregnant at that time. Imagine. Another time, he told his other wife Obiageli to kneel down and massage his belly all through the night while he slept. Why? Because he said she couldn't satisfy him in bed. He insulted her, calling her a sour tasteless soup, and kept abusing her until he snored off into dreamland, belly being rubbed like a king's charm. And then, there was the day his wife Chiadi mistakenly lost one of his expensive clothes to the river while washing. That day, Okoro turned into a wild animal. He beat her so mercilessly that you would think he was trying to break her bones one by one. Her body was covered in bruises from head to toe. And as if that was not enough, he locked her in a dark room without food or water for 7 days. 7 whole days. The villagers whispered about it. But who had the courage to face Okoro the Iron Rooster? And that is not even all. For all his boastings and big names, Okoro never truly cared for his wives. The moment he married a new woman, he would simply hand her a piece of land and declare, "Work, feed me, feed your children." That was his own idea of being a husband. Okoro was nothing short of a wicked husband and an irresponsible father. His money was never for his household. No, Okoro spent his wealth on himself. New clothes, gold chains, fine sandals, and on outsiders who didn't give a damn about him. While his name glittered outside like fresh palm oil, inside his home there was nothing but sorrow. Women with broken hearts and bent backs, faces swollen with ceaseless tears. Just imagine it. After toiling all day under the scorching sun and pouring rain, bending their backs on the farmland, struggling to feed the family, the wives would return home to still cook, serve and satisfy a man who never thought twice before unleashing his fury upon them. No wonder many could not bear it for long. When the pain became too much, when the beatings turned their lives into living graves, the women would quietly gather their children and run. Because leaving the children behind was never an option. After all, abandoning them in Okoro's hand was the same as handing them over to death. Because he wouldn't care. And Okoro never grieved, never reflected, never changed. Before the villagers could even finish gossiping about one wife that had fled, Okoro would already be chasing another maiden, and without wasting time he would marry again. 3, 4, 5, no, 7. In fact, nobody could count anymore. Each one left in tears. Some escaped at midnight, barefoot, carrying their babies on their backs. Others fled at sunrise without packing a single wrapper. And by the time Okoro opened his proud eyes, all he would see was an empty cooking pot and a cold bed. Yet, never once did Okoro blame himself. Instead, he would clap his hands in the village square and boast at the top of his lungs. Let them run. For every one woman that runs, 10 more will beg to marry me. Am I not handsome? Am I not rich? Who can resist Okoro the Iron Rooster? Now, let me tell you something about Umuofia people. They had sharp eyes and sharper mouths. Nobody's matter escaped their lips, and Okoro's name was their favorite pepper soup. From morning till night, the villagers gossiped about him. At a stream, women fetching water would balance their pots and hiss, have you heard? Okoro said his money is too much for any woman to finish. Let him bring it here. I will show him how yam and palm oil finish money in one market day. At the farms, men sharpening their cutlasses would shake their heads and laugh. Okoro again. That man's mouth is like a broken flute. It never closes. If pride was a disease, by now the healer would have refused to treat him. Even children turned him into their evening play. Whenever they gathered under the moon to play 10-10 and Suwe, they would suddenly break into a mocking chant. Okoro the rooster, kukuruku. He shouts and he crows, but his wives all flew. Okoro the iron, hard like stone. He eats and boasts, but he sleeps alone. The children would flap their arms like wings and scatter in laughter. Sometimes, if they saw him coming from afar, they would run to the sides of the road, crowing loudly, kukuruku, kukuruku, and then fall on each other laughing. Market women were no better. As Okoro strutted past, they would whisper behind their wrappers, "See him, chest up like a soldier ant, but no woman can stay in his house. Very wicked man. 1 week inside and you will run back to your father's compound looking like you wrestled a spirit." Even the elders at the village square, sipping palm wine slowly like wise tortoises, shook their heads whenever his name came up. One of them, Pawu Okoro, would always say, "Okoro is like a rooster that thinks the sun rises because of its crow. One day, he will learn that the sun shines whether or not the cock opens its mouth." But no one dared to talk to him face to face. They were all scared of him or either scared of their belly. But Okoro had the ears of a stubborn goat. He heard the gossip, saw the mockery, but instead of shame, he would puff his chest higher and strut harder. If children crowed at him, he crowed back louder. If women whispered, he shouted his words louder in their ears. And if elders dared to warn him, he would laugh and buy palm wine for them, drowning their wisdom with his noise. Yet, a whisper began to spread like harmattan fire. One day, Okoro the Iron Rooster will meet his match, and that day, the whole village will gather to watch. Meanwhile, somewhere at the far end of the village lived a quiet orphan named Amarachi. Life had not been kind to her. She was born by a single mother, who one day disappeared like smoke in Harmattan, leaving the poor child in the care of her aged grandmother. From then on, Amarachi grew up the hard way, sweating, struggling, and doing every odd job the village could throw at her just to keep herself and her grandmother alive. But if you thought hardship would crush Amarachi, then you didn't know her spirit. Amarachi was built with the heart of a lioness. She was strong, bold, and unafraid to face life squarely. While other maidens walked with delicate steps, Amarachi walked with the strength of 3 men, carrying baskets, weeding lands, fetching water, pounding yam, anything that would keep her and her grandmother going. Of course, she didn't have the fancy things her mates showed off in the village. No shiny wrappers, no flashy beads, no expensive hairpins. But Amarachi never cared. When the village girls mocked her, calling her Mbweke and laughing at her plain clothes, Amarachi would simply adjust her wrapper, raise her chin, and walk away, as though their words were nothing but dry leaves in the wind. Because Amarachi had something those girls didn't have. Hope. Hope that one day her suffering would end. Hope that she would meet a man who would love her, cherish her, and take away the heavy burden life had placed on her shoulders. So she ignored the gossip and focused on her hustle. And the villagers could not help but notice. They whispered behind her back, voices full of surprise and admiration. This girl is strong. See how she weeds land like a machine. Anyone who marries her will enjoy. She doesn't fear work at all. They shook their heads in wonder as they walked past. But unfortunately, when Amarachi reached a marriageable age, no suitor came knocking at her door. Her mates were getting married one by one, yet not a single man ever stopped to say hi to Amarachi. The seasons turned, the years rolled by, and still no husband. Even the few who once showed small interest in her would suddenly develop cold feet and disappear as though swallowed by the earth. With each passing year, Amarachi's hopes sank deeper into sadness. The strong girl, who once believed her suffering would end, began to look like a woman cursed. Her heart tore whenever she saw her age mates already carrying babies strapped to their backs, singing lullabies at the stream or gossiping at the markets while breastfeeding. And the villagers, hey, their tongues were sharper than blades. Look at that wicked girl, they would sneer, pointing at her. See how unkempt she looks. Nobody will marry her. She will grow old and die lonely like a forgotten goat. And then they would burst into laughter that stabbed her heart. Amarachi would return home from the market or farm, her wrapper dusty, her eyes heavy, and sit under the shade of the old tree in front of their hut. There she would bury her face in her hands and cry bitterly, the kind of cry that shakes the chest like dry raffia in the wind. This was not the life she had dreamed of. Her grandmother, old and frail, would sit beside her, rubbing her back gently. "My daughter," she would whisper, "do not cry. Everyone has their own time, and your time will come. The man meant for you will show up. Just allow the gods to write your story." But those words fell on Amarachi's heart like water poured on stone. They did not sink in. She was tired of hoping, tired of waiting. She had suffered all her life, and now she needed relief. She was already over 30, and the silence of her compound haunted her. She needed a man. At that point, she didn't care whether he had chicken legs, frog teeth, or even looked like a masquerade. All she wanted was to enter a man's house and finally answer married woman. All her youthful dreams of love, romance, and being cherished, Amarachi had thrown them into the bush like old firewood. What she wanted now was simple: a husband, any husband. And it was in that desperate state that her path crossed with Okoro the Iron Rooster. That very day, Amarachi had come to the market to sell her goods, large tubers of yam that were so massive. People gathered around in amazement. They whispered, wondering aloud how a single woman had managed to cultivate such giant yams from the soil. Some even bent down to touch the yams, shaking their heads in disbelief. Okoro, who had just finished selling off his palm oil and was riding home on his horse, noticed the small crowd gathered in a corner. At first, he wanted to ride past, but something made him pull on the reins and turn his head. Peering into the crowd, his eyes landed on Amarachi, and in that moment, Okoro froze. She was beautiful, yes, but not the fragile, pampered kind of beauty that Okoro was used to. No, this one carried a fire in her eyes, a kind of fierce strength only hardship could sculpt. Her clothes was plain, her head tied simply, yet her presence shone brighter than any beads. She was focused, attending to her customers with quick hands and a firm tone. Okoro's eyes dropped to her arms, muscular, toned, like someone who had wrestled life itself and refused to be defeated. For the first time in his life, Okoro was looking beyond mere appearance. He liked what he saw. This woman was no ordinary maiden. She looked like someone who could survive war and still come out smiling. Then he overheard some market women gossiping about her. That one, she cultivated these yams herself. She's strong like 3 men put together. Anyone who marries her has found gold. Okoro was stunned. A woman who could on her own cultivate and harvest yams of that size. His chest swelled with excitement. He began to imagine, if she was this hardworking, with the little she has now, then, given a bigger piece of land, she would build an empire. His mind raced. This one is not like those weak, lazy, unlucky things I've been marrying all these years. This one's arms alone could weed 10 ridges in one afternoon. She will work hard on the farm, birth strong and handsome children for me, massage my tired back on the bed with those strong hands, and still cook my meal with respect. Perfect. This one is not just a wife, she is a lifetime investment. Okoro nodded to himself. Yes, he had just spotted his jackpot. Eager to make an impression, he quickly jumped down from his horse and bought several of the biggest tubers of yam from her store. Amarachi, too busy with her business, simply sold to him like she would any other customer. Okoro, chest high, loaded the yams, mounted his horse again and rode away, whistling happily to himself. His heart thumped with pride. He had found her. He had found the one. By the very next day, Okoro had begun asking questions about the mysterious maiden. And no, the responses he received sweetened his ears like honey. Everyone told him the same story, that she was strong, hardworking, well-behaved, respectful and kind. They painted Amarachi as a perfect woman, a rare jewel hidden in plain sight. Okoro's chest swelled even bigger. At last, he thought the gods had heard his cry. This was the woman he had been looking for all his life, the one who would meet all his needs and bend completely to his rules. So, 1 week later, without wasting time, Okoro gathered his kinsmen dressed in his finest wrappers and marched straight to Amarachi's hut to ask for a hand in marriage. That day, Amarachi's joy nearly split the roof of the hut. Her happiness could not be contained. For the very first time in her life, a man had come officially to seek her hand. And not just any man, no. This was Okoro, the Akwaguago himself, the man whose beauty people said could wake the gods from their slumber, one of the wealthiest men in the entire Umuofia. Now, before you even ask, but didn't she know who Okoro really was? My dearest besties, let me tell you, Amarachi knew. She knew very well. Okoro's stories had spread far and wide across the kingdom. Everybody knew how proud he was and how he bullies his wives and changes them like wrapper every Eke market day. His name was like pepper in every mouth. But Amarachi didn't care. She was really desperate to get married. As long as Okoro was a man and had something between his thighs, she was going home. As long as she could finally call herself Mrs. and have a husband to silence the tongues of those who mocked her, she was ready. She didn't care if Okoro was a devil himself. At least, she wouldn't die single while her mates already have 5 children. So, Amarachi said yes, without a moment's hesitation. Okoro and his kinsmen left that day after fixing the next date for the traditional rites. By evening, trust Umuofia, the news had spread through the entire village like fire in dry grass. Everywhere you turned, people whispered, "Ewo, Okoro is getting married again. And this time, it is Amarachi the Mbweke girl." Many people shook their heads in pity. Does she not hear, or is she deaf? Even rats and cockroaches in this village know Okoro's story. Why would she enter his house willingly? I pity her. She has signed herself into everlasting suffering. But Amarachi's happiness drowned out their pity. She heard the whispers. She heard the murmurs. Even some bold ones had called her aside to give her unsolicited advice. Do you know how many times this man has married? Do you want to be one of his unfortunate wives? They asked. But Amarachi only smiled, her eyes shining, and answered gently, "I know everything about him." Her joy was so obvious, so radiant, that after a while, some people began to wonder if she was still in her right senses. Weeks later, the marriage ceremony took place, and Amarachi dazzled like no bride had ever done before in Umuofia. She insisted on a big ceremony, and Okoro agreed. After all, in his heart, he had already planned how she would work out every kobo they had spent once she entered his house. Giving in to something like this really meant nothing. But poor Amarachi didn't know that. Ignorant and overflowing with excitement, she sang and danced that day, her heart bubbling with joy. At last, she was finally married, and all her enemies would shut up. Finally, the wedding celebration ended. The drums went silent, and everyone with their bellies filled with food and wine began to go home. Okoro's marriage to Amarachi was talk of the town, glowing like never before. Amarachi stepped proudly into Okoro's compound as his new brand wife, her heart beating with joy. At last, I am a married woman. The compound was big, yes, but it had a strange emptiness about it. The huts were plenty, yet so quiet. The yard was wide, yet it carried no laughter of children. The air itself felt heavy, like it carried secrets. But Amarachi, blinded by excitement, didn't care. She smiled from ear to ear as she set her box down in the corner of her room. Okoro, strutting in behind her like a cock that had just won a fight, cleared his throat and spoke. He didn't even allow her to settle down properly. She needed to know what she had come for. Amarachi, congratulations. You are finally in your husband's house as my new wife, and I can see how happy you are. Now, listen carefully. This house is not like every other house you know, and I have spent a lot of money on this marriage ceremony, more than I have ever spent to marry any of my previous wives. And that is because you have strong arms and can actually walk out the money. So, you can tell that this house is not for lazy women. You see, all my farmlands and this compound, henceforth, they are yours to manage. You will work and serve me, and you will never complain. You do not want to see me angry. Do you understand me? Amarachi, still lost in the euphoria of marriage, clapped her hands and laughed. Ewo, my husband, talk small. I am not lazy. After all, who do you think cultivated those giant yams you bought from me that day? I am ready for work. You don't need to worry. Okoro nodded proudly, satisfied. Good. This shows my investment was worth it. We will start tomorrow. Since my last wife left, all the water pots remained empty. Tomorrow morning, you will fetch 20 pots of water from the stream and fill them. After that, you will sweep the entire compound and clear the weeds around the fence. Then, you will pound yam for me at noon. Don't be afraid, very soon you will get used to it. Amarachi's smile froze for just a moment, but she quickly forced it back. No problem, my husband. Is that all? Okoro squinted at her. For today, yes. But tomorrow is just the beginning. By the time 1 week passes, you will be strong like iron. All you have to do this night is show me what you can do to your husband with your waist and hands. Amarachi smiled sheepishly. That night, Amarachi lay on the raffia mat smiling to herself after she had spent time with her husband in his inner chamber. She could tell that he was truly satisfied. He had asked her to go to her hut as he needed all the space he could get on his bed. But also, Amarachi didn't mind. She hugged her wrapper like it was a baby and whispered, "At last, I am Mrs. Okoro. Let them mock me now if they can." She didn't know that sleep was the last piece she would enjoy for a long, long time. Because the very next morning, before the cock even crowed, Okoro's voice thundered through the compound. "Amarachi! Amarachi, wake up, it's time to go fetch water." Amarachi, who had barely closed her eyes from all the dancing and bedroom work of the previous day, jumped up, rubbing her sleepy face. She tied her wrap and staggered to the door. "My husband." "But it's still dark," she yawned. Okoro folded his arms, his chest puffed out. "Still dark? A good wife wakes up before the cock crows. No reasonable woman still lies in bed at this time. Go now, fetch 20 pots of water from the stream. By the time I finish stretching, I want to hear the sound of full pots lined up here." 20, Amarachi blinked. "Yes, 20. I told you yesterday. You have strong arms, don't you? Did I not see you carrying yams like a buffalo in the market? Or were those yams not real?" A few neighbors who had woken up pretended to sweep their compounds, but their ears were wide open, waiting for the show to begin. Amarachi hissed under her breath, balanced the first pot of water on her head and made her way to the stream. Each trip took about 20 minutes, and by the time she dropped the 10th pot, her neck was screaming, her legs wobbling. She leaned on the wall, sweat pouring down her body. "Chimu, this man wants to kill me." Okoro meanwhile sat on his stool, sipping palm wine like a king. "Oh yeah, good job, continue. A strong woman must prove herself, and there are other things you need to do, so be fast." When she finally staggered in with the 20th pot, she collapsed on the floor, breathing like a fish out of water. But Okoro only clapped his hands. "Good. Now it's time to sweep the entire compound. After that, you will clear the weeds by the fence. You need to be quick because I must eat pounded yam before noon." Amarachi's eyes nearly fell out. "Yam? Before noon? You still expect me to pound yam for you after all the stress?" Okoro's face tightened in anger. "When I tell you what to do, do not question me. If I tell you to jump, the only question I expect from you is, how high? So when I say I need pounded yam, what you should ask me is, my husband, how many tubers of yam can fill you?" Amarachi's eyes glistened with tears. This was just the first day. The neighbors hiding behind their fences almost burst into laughter. One even whispered to another, "Didn't we say it? Amarachi's doomed life has started. Today we will not go to the farm. Let's sit here and enjoy this sweet show." By the time Amarachi finished sweeping the compound and weeding the fence, the sun was already high. She wiped her face with her wrapper, muttering, "God of my ancestors, what did I get myself into?" Then she dragged the pestle and began pounding yam with all the anger in her chest. Wham! 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 Each strike shook the ground like thunder. Okoro sniffed the air as the aroma of soup filled the compound and licked his lips. Ah, This is how a real wife should be. Strong arms, good cooking skill. Amarachi, filled with anger, glared at him when he wasn't looking, sweat dripping from her nose. She had been through a lot in just one day, and this man didn't even seem to care about her. Don't worry. One day, I will use this pestle to pound sense into your head, she muttered. And that was how Amarachi's marriage to Okoro began. Not with romance or sweet words, but with 20 pots of water, endless sweeping and weeding, yam pounding, and the warm-up of a battle that would shake the entire village of Umuofia. By the time Amarachi had spent just 1 week in Okoro's house, she almost could not recognize herself anymore. The list of house chores was endless. Sweeping, scrubbing, cooking, washing. Then came the farm work. Okoro had given her a large piece of land to clear all by herself. I want big-sized tubers, just like the one I saw you selling at the market, he commanded, pointing at the forest as if he was sending her to war. And to be honest, Amarachi was literally tired. Never in her life had she done the kind of back-breaking work Okoro demanded from her. Her hands bled from endless grass cutting, the blisters on her palms bursting like boiled granules. Yet, after suffering under the scorching sun, she would still return home to cook, clean, fetch water, and then at night drag her weary body to Okoro's bed, because he expected her to satisfy him, while he simply lay there, barely rising and falling, doing absolutely nothing. While Amarachi did all the job, both the man's job and the woman's job. But poor Amarachi didn't even know that something was wrong. After all, Okoro was the first man she had ever slept with. She thought it was normal. After all, hadn't people always said that a woman's duty was to please her husband and make sure he was satisfied? So she bore it quietly, even as her body screamed for rest. The villagers had begun to laugh and mock her wherever she passed. We warned her. We told her, but see how miserable she looks already, they jeered, shaking their heads. Some even spat on the ground. Sophia, why would any woman in her right senses marry Okoro? She has not even seen anything yet. Weeks passed, then months. And in those few months, Amarachi had seen hell on earth. She came to know Okoro's true nature, wicked, selfish and heartless. Yes, he was wealthy, but his money never touched her hands. He spent it all on himself, buying flashy clothes, drinking barrels of palm wine with friends, chasing after frivolities, while Amarachi slaved like a farm animal to keep the house running. She was no longer a wife. She was a slave, or even worse than a slave. And on top of that, Okoro beat her mercilessly and rained insult on her head for the tiniest mistake. If the soup had too much salt, blows would land. If she returned from the farm late, slaps followed. And if the food lacked enough meat, food that he would not even bring money to cook, Amarachi would feel his fist and hear words that sliced her like a cutlass. I am a wealthy man, he would roar, his eyes bulging with madness. I am not from that useless poverty-stricken lineage of yours that the entire village mocks. You, he would point at her like she was filth. You are nothing but a hungry Mweke girl I picked out of pity. Do you know who I am? I am Okoro Akwaguagu. My wife must serve me like a king. Do you hear me when I say meat in the soup? I do not mean all these tiny little things you call meat. I mean big chunks. Meat big enough to fill my teeth, not those miserable bones you bring here. Useless woman. You will never try this nonsense again. His words struck Amarachi harder than his blows. He stripped her dignity away piece by piece until she felt smaller than dust. And after the beatings, with her tears still wet on her cheeks, Amarachi would kneel down beside him as he devoured the food like a starved frog, smacking his lips, licking every corner of his finger greedily, while insulting her family name between mouthfuls. Yes, Amarachi had known who Okoro was before marrying him, but foolish hope had deceived her heart. She had thought maybe he will treat me differently. Maybe my story will not be like others. But now, she didn't even have words to describe the torment she was living in. Even horrible felt too small. And the worst part, the part that broke her spirit, was that she had no one to run to. Because the truth was, they had all warned her. Amarachi's days grew darker with every sunrise. At night, when Okoro's snores filled the hut and the moonlight crept through the cracks in the raffia roof, she would bury her face in her wrapper and cry silently. Her sobs were muffled so the neighbors wouldn't hear, but her heart bled with questions only the gods could answer. Is this what I prayed for? Is this a husband I begged the heavens to send me? I have labored all my life, yet my reward is chains and shame. Was I cursed from birth? Why did I live my quiet, suffering life to enter this raging fire? Her tears often soaked the mat, until it felt like she was sleeping on the very river of her grief. Then, one day, humiliation greeted her in public. Amarachi had gone to the market with the little money she managed from selling firewood. She wanted to buy meat to cook a decent meal just so Okoro wouldn't descend on her with blows again. So she approached Aboma, the meat seller, and carefully priced a small portion. But what she saw shocked her. Aboma threw her head back and laughed mockingly, her voice sharp enough to cut through the shatter of the market. Ha! See who we have here. Amarachi, the wretched one. The woman that was born to suffer. You dare underprice my meats? Look at you, foolish woman. Because you were desperate to get married, you ended up with that wealthy tyrant Okoro. Look at how he's treating you miserably. You were better off single if you don't know. Her words hit Amarachi like whips, but Aboma wasn't done. She leaned forward, her hands on her wide hips. Once upon a time, you were a hard-working woman. The whole village respected you. Now, you are nothing but a laughingstock, a slave to a man cursed by the gods. And you dare come here to price my meat 200 naira. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Why not tell me to dash you all the meat for free? Penniless rich man's wife. Look at your life. I'm even sure your chi has disowned you by now. They will be so disappointed at how stupid you are. She hissed loudly and flung her hand towards the basket of meat. Because get out of here and don't bring bad luck to my business. Aboma's voice carried across the market like the beat of a talking drum. And soon, the other villagers turned to look. Their laughter rained down like stones. You needed to see the way she was dancing the day she got married, one woman said loudly, snapping her fingers. Hey! She danced as if she was stepping into paradise. Now look at her. Paradise has become prison. The laughter grew, mocking and merciless. Amarachi stood frozen, shame burning her skin. She clutched her empty bag tightly, her eyes stinging with tears. Finally, she turned and ran out of the market, her slippers slapping the dusty ground as if chasing her misery away. Her heart pounded with pain and anger. I have suffered all my life, believing marriage would bring me freedom and relief. But this, she gasped, her chest tight. This has been my worst nightmare. And in that moment, Amarachi swore within herself. She had had enough. That evening, Amarachi returned from the market with nothing in her bag. She hadn't bought a thing, a single thing. How could she? She had no money. Okoro, meanwhile, was at his usual palace, the palm wine joint, boasting, drinking, and throwing money around as if he had a spring that never dried. Left with no choice, Amarachi went to the backyard. She plucked a few miserable leaves of vegetable, pounded them into a watery soup, and ate just enough to keep her stomach from groaning. Later that night, Okoro swaggered home in his drunken glory. He balanced himself at his favorite spot under the shade of the big tree. His chest puffed like a turkey's. "Amarachi," he bellowed, "bring my food." Quickly, Amarachi went into the kitchen, arranged a neat tray and placed it before him. Okoro balanced, loosened his trousers, watched his hands slowly, as though preparing for a royal feast. But the moment he opened the plate, his voice tore through the night. "What is this?" he screamed. "What is this nonsense? Amara! Amarachi!" She rushed towards him, bowing. "My darling husband." He barked like a rabid dog. "Where is the food you prepared? How dare you serve me ordinary water?" Amarachi's voice was calm but firm. That is all we can afford, my darling husband. I could not meet up from the farm today, nor fetch firewood to sell, so tonight we will just drink water and sleep." Okoro froze. His ears rang. Did she just? His heart pounded as his eyes bulged. No woman had ever dared such insolence. He jumped up, veins swelling in his neck. "Kneel down," he thundered. "Today I will deal with you." He dashed into his hut to fetch his long cane, his weapon of pride. But when he came out, ready to lash her into submission, what he saw nearly made his knees buckle. Even you, bestie, wouldn't have seen this twist coming. Amarachi was standing tall, her wrapper tied tightly, her face fierce. In her hand, she held a long whip, and her eyes blazed like the very gods had poured fire into them. "I swear by the gods, Okoro," she shouted, her voice vibrating through the compound. "If you dare come close to me, I will finish you with this whip today." Okoro froze, his feet suddenly heavy. He took an uncertain step back. "Amara, are you talking to me? Your husband?" "Your husband," Amarachi scoffed. "Ha! Okoro, you are a very wicked man. You want to kill me? Did I commit any crime by marrying you? Yes, I was desperate. I agree, I was desperate. So what? I have tried to be a good wife to you. But what have you done? You have turned me into a laughing stock in this village. You see this good wife era, it has ended tonight." She flexed her strong arms, her whip raised high. "You said you married me because I have strong arms to cultivate yam, Abi? Good. Then try me, Okoro. Try me. I will use these same hands to pound you like fufu. I cannot suffer in my mother's house and still come here to suffer. From today, it is fire for fire. Hit me once, I will hit you 10 times. Okoro's mouth hung open. He had never seen this version of Amarachi before. The timid, desperate woman he married had vanished. In her place stood a tigress, her eyes blazing, voice shaking the night air. For the first time in his life, Okoro was speechless. He looked at the whip, then at Amarachi's burning eyes, and something inside him trembled. In his entire life, no woman had ever spoken back to him, much less stood before him ready for a fight. Without a word, he clutched his cane, turned sharply, and stormed into his hut. He slammed the door behind him. Amarachi remained outside, chest heaving, whip still in her hand. The wind carried her words into the night like a promise. The battle had begun. By the next morning, the whole village had heard the story. Amarachi stood up to Okoro. They asked one another, their eyes wide in disbelief. She held a whip for him. Amarachi. Hey! It spread faster than Harmattan fire. From the stream to the markets, from the farms to the palm wine joint, everywhere people were whispering, shaking their heads or bursting into laughter. Some didn't even believe it until they came closer to Okoro's compound to see things for themselves. And what did they see? Trouble had rented a room in Okoro's compound. Okoro, still boiling with pride, refused to let go. Amarachi, now awake in her spirit, refused to bend. Their compound became a daily wrestling ground of words and fury. By sunrise, neighbors were already dragging stools to the fence, pretending to weed or sweep just to hear the drama. By mid-morning, people gathered in twos and threes, whispering and waiting. Amarachi, where is my water? Okoro's voice would boom. Go and fetch it yourself, mighty roaster, Amarachi would snap back. The villagers would burst into muffled laughter. Amarachi, why is my food not ready? Okoro would thunder. If you are hungry, enter the kitchen and cook. You rich man's hand. Amarachi would not kill herself for you, she would fire, hands on her waist. The crowd outside would clap, hissing and laughing until their stomachs ached. Even the children made a song out of it. Okoro shouts 1, Amara shouts 10. Fire for fire, who go win am? They sang and clapped as they ran about the compound, mocking the once feared iron rooster. Okoro, who had spent his life silencing women, now found himself silenced by Amarachi's fire. He would puff his chest, raise his cane, only to drop it back when he remembered the whip and the look in her eyes that night. Inside him, anger and confusion wrestled. How could a woman, his wife, the one he had chosen as an investment, stand so boldly against him? Yet, each time he tried to assert himself, Amarachi matched him blow for blow, word for word. The villagers no longer went to the square for evening stories. They came to Okoro's compound instead. His pride became their jokes. Amarachi's defiance became their new entertainment. And in the middle of all the chaos, Amarachi, though still carrying her pain, felt a strange strength rising in her. For the first time since her marriage, she no longer cried in silence. She was fighting. And Okoro, the once proud iron rooster, had met his match. One morning, one of Okoro's biggest customers, Agu, visited the compound. He had come to pay up the money he owed Okoro for the last barrels of palm oil he had bought. Okoro's eyes lit up like fireflies at the sight of him. He loved it whenever money was coming in. It was his sweetest medicine. The two men sat under the big tree in the compound, chewing kola nuts and laughing loudly as they discussed business. Okoro, grinning like a child who had found honey, counted the crisp notes slowly, one by one, licking his fingers in between. When their business was done, Okoro got up, adjusted his wrapper and left. Okoro, humming to himself, carried the money bag into his hut to hide it carefully. But unknown to him, his wife Amarachi was watching everything from the window, her eyes sharp and calculating. As soon as Okoro left, Amarachi sneaked into the room and took the bag of money. Hey, besties, that day, you should have seen Amarachi. She became another woman entirely. She was so excited that she bathed twice, scrubbing herself until her skin glowed, whistling happily like a bird in the forest. Afterward, she slipped into one of her simple old clothes. By the way she tied the wrapper and adjusted it on her hips, you would think she was dressing for a royal coronation. Today, she whispered to herself with a smile, marks the end of my suffering. I am the wife of a wealthy man, and the people of Umuofia must see it with their own eyes. With her chin high, Amarachi Cat walked to the village market like a true chief's wife. And she really shopped like a queen. She picked out new wrappers in bright colors, jingling jewelries, fine slippers, shiny bags, and enough foodstuffs to fill 2 baskets. The traders watched in amazement, their mouths hanging open. Some even whispered amongst themselves, "Is this not Amarachi, Okoro's wife? Ewo, See the Mbweke girl shining like moonlight, who dash monkey banana. She's spending as if she's the first wife of a king. But Amarachi didn't care. She braided her hair into a beautiful, elegant style that made her look 10 years younger. By the time she finished, she was looking so stunning that even the jealous maidens had to admit this one has transformed though. That evening, as she prepared dinner in her kitchen, Amarachi danced from pot to pot like a queen rehearsing for a festival. Her feet tapped against the floor and she whistled softly, her heart bubbling with joy. Meanwhile, in another corner of Umuofia, the news of Amarachi's sudden spending spree was already flying like gossip carried by the wind. It reached the palm wine joint, where Okoro sat proudly with his usual crowd, devouring a large piece of meat, palm wine dripping down his beard. Okoro, one of the men said, chuckling as he slapped his back, "I must say, your last wife really calmed you. You have changed." Okoro raised an eyebrow, chewing slowly. "Changed? What are you talking about?" The man laughed. "Your wife Amarachi. You now even give her money to shop freely. Hey, my brother, the women said she bought the entire market today. Wrappers here, jewelries there, foodstuffs plenty. That's a good thing, oh. Okoro, it is very good to take care of your wife." Okoro's jaw stiffened. His meat suddenly lost its taste. He swallowed hard. "What did you just say?" "I said she bought the entire market." "She bought the entire market," another added, nodding. "Everyone is talking about it. Amarachi is looking like a queen." "What?" Okoro's voice shook the palm wine joint. "Bought the entire market. With which money?" She wouldn't dare. Before anyone could blink, Okoro jumped up from his stool, his wrapper nearly loosening in his haste. Without waiting for another word, he dashed out of the joint and began running towards his compound, his legs flying like a man being chased by fire. When Okoro stormed into his compound that night, his nostrils flared as the aroma of sizzling meat and spices floated through the air. He slowed his steps, confused, and peeked into the kitchen. There, before his very eyes, was a woman twirling and dancing as she stirred a big pot of soup, her wrapper clinging to her cuffs, her hair freshly braided, jewelry glistening in the firelight. She looked so radiant, so transformed that at first he could not even recognize her. He rubbed his eyes and peered again. "Amarachi," he gasped under his breath. Even the queen of Umuofia could not match her beauty at that moment. But as his admiration turned to dread, his chest tightened. So it was true. Where did she get all this money from? Could it be? With his heart pounding, Okoro dashed into his hut, threw open the chest where he had hidden Ago's payments earlier. He searched under the mats, inside the calabashes, behind the wrappers, but the money was gone. Every last note. He rushed back out, his eyes bloodshot, foam nearly forming in his mouth. "Amarachi! Amarachi! Fool! Thief! Useless woman! Where is my money?" Amarachi turned to him slowly, her face calm, her lips curved into a mocking smile. "Oh, my darling husband," she called sweetly. "You are back? Look, I bought plenty of meat just like you love. I'm preparing a special delicacy for you." She turned back to the pot, deliberately ignoring his question. "Where is my money?" Okoro thundered again, his voice booming so loudly that it rattled the neighbors' fences. Amarachi dropped her spoon, turned around, and looked him squarely in the eye. Her voice was steady, almost casual. "I took it. Yes, and I spent it. And then what?" The words pierced Okoro's ears like hot needles. For a moment, he stood frozen, stunned by her boldness and audacity. But then fury swallowed him whole. Money was the one thing Okoro never played with. Amarachi had crossed the line he could not forgive. His body shook, his chest heaved. She was taking far too much liberty. By now, the neighbors had already gathered quietly at the fence, whispering, elbowing one another, their eyes gleaming with excitement. "The show has started," one murmured. "This night will be hot." Without a second thought, Okoro lunged at Amarachi, his fist raised. But Amarachi was ready. The years of suffering had hardened her like iron, and now her arms carried the strength of a woman life had trained like a soldier. Blows began to rain, but this time they rained in two directions. Amarachi matched Okoro's punch for punch, strike for strike. His cane swung through the air, but her whip lashed back harder. His slap landed, but her fist cracked against his jaw. The kitchen turned into a battlefield, pots clanging, stews spilling, fire hissing. Soon, to the shock of all, Okoro the Iron Wrister, the man who had tormented wives and broken spirits, lay flat on the ground, writhing and groaning in pain, as the villagers roared with laughter outside the fence. Amarachi, panting and sweaty, stood over him like a victorious warrior. She pointed her whip at his face and shouted, "Coward! Stand up, let's throw some more blows. Do you think I'm your other wives? You must be very stupid, Okoro. I am ready for you. You hoard money, lavish it outside and expect me to suffer like a slave. Never. Not again, Okoro. In this marriage, we will either live together or die together, but I will no longer bow to you." Okoro held his waist, his face twisted in agony. He tried to rise, but the pain shot through him like a curse. Defeated, humiliated, he remained on the ground groaning as Amarachi glared down at him. The mighty Iron Rooster had been plucked. Loud screams and shouts shattered the morning peace of Umuofia the next day. It was Okoro's voice echoing through the compound like a masquerade drum. "I am tired of this marriage," he bellowed. "You must go, Amara. I am not doing again. Don't even bother returning the dowry. Take everything. Just leave my house. I cannot continue marrying another man in the name of a woman." As he shouted, he flung Amarachi's belongings out of the hut one by one, wrappers flying, cooking pots clanging on the ground, even her slippers landing in the dust. Yet every few seconds, his hand will fly to his waist with the winds. Amarachi had truly dealt with him the day before, and the pain was still fresh in his bones. But Amarachi, she stood firm, unshaken, and radiant as ever. She was beautifully dressed, her hair tie shining in the morning sun, her face set like a queen before her subjects. She folded her arms and planted her feet in the sand, as if her roots had sunk into the earth. "Okoro," she said, her voice calm but cutting, "you have not even seen anything yet. I have come to stay. If you dare bring another woman into this house, I will chase her away with my 2 hands. Whether you like it or not, we are stuck together in this marriage. No turning back. Amarachi is married though, and this is my husband's house." The crowd that had gathered gasped, then burst into murmurs. Okoro's face turned red with rage as he clutched his wrapper tightly. "No, you must go, Amarachi. I am done," he howled, lifting his hand to the sky. "People of Umuofia, oh! People of Umuofia, come and see. I have married a lion into my house. Somebody save me. I want her to live before she kills me." But Amarachi flung her wrapper over her shoulder, her eyes flashing. "People of Umuofia, oh! People of Umuofia, hear me well. Amarachi is not going anywhere." Okoro bought what he priced. "I am here to stay. And you see this marriage, it is until death do us part." "Ewo!" Okoro wailed, clutching his head. "Hey, people of Umuofia, I am finished. My waist bones are broken because of this man-woman. What have I done to deserve this?" He hobbled about, one hand on his head, the other on his waist, groaning like a goat in labor. The people of Umuofia thought they had seen it all in their lifetime. But you see this spectacle, it left them speechless. Some stood with mouths hanging open. Others rolled on the ground laughing until tears streamed down their eyes. Who would have believed it? Amarachi, the once desperate Mbweke girl, had turned into a roaring fire. She was giving Okoro blow for blow, word for word. And now, She was making him cry like a child in the village square. The women especially were thrilled. They clapped their hands, ululated and began to hail Amarachi, their voices rising above Okoro's wails. Amarachi the lioness. Amarachi the fearless one. She has tamed the iron rooster. For the first time in Umuofia, the women had found a heroine, and her name was Amarachi. Okoro, seeing that Amarachi had completely overpowered him in the house, decided to take the matter to the village elders. He marched into their meeting place, clutching his waist dramatically and crying out, "My elders, I am finished. That woman takes my money, refuses to cook for me, does not fetch water, and worst of all, she fights me. If I say 1, she will say 10. I am tired. I wanted a wife, but I ended up with my fellow man. Her arms are so strong, stronger than mine. Please, I am begging you, my elders. Help me send her away before she kills me." The elders exchanged glances and then burst into roaring laughter. Okoro looked around angrily, his eyes bulging. "What is funny? I just made a complaint. I need that woman out of my house." One of the elders wiped tears of laughter from his eyes and said, "Okoro, we are sorry, but isn't her strong arms one of the things that attracted you to her in the first place? Remember, you praised her at the market. You said this woman is the woman you want, that she is strong enough to build you an empire. Now you have what you asked for." "It was a mistake," my elder Okoro groaned, stamping his feet. "Please help me. That woman will kill me. Oh, she will kill me." "It's fine," another elder said with a sigh. "We will summon her on the next Eke Market Day." And so they did. That day, Amarachi arrived in a manner that silenced even her enemies. Hey! You should have seen her attire. Magnificent was the word. She was dripping with wrappers, beads, and ornaments, all purchased with Okoro's own money. Her hair was braided high like a queen's crown. Her wrist jingled with bangles, and her waist swung as she entered like a woman born of royalty. The men just stared in awe. Some swallowed hard, others scratched their heads. Amarachi walked in with the confidence of a goddess. And the worst part was that every single kobo she wore was Okoro's money shining back at him. Okoro's eyes widened, and before he could stop himself, tears began to roll down his cheeks. His heart bled as he realized his wealth was sitting there on Amarachi's body for the whole council to see, yet he could do nothing. The eldest of the council cleared his throat. "So, Amarachi, your husband here has complained that you no longer cook for him, that you don't even care for him, and that you fight him in the house." "No," Okoro cut in sharply. "She doesn't fight me. This woman beats me up. She beats me up," Okoro cried, holding his waist again. The elders blinked in shock. "Eh? Okoro, say that again." "He lies." Amarachi started to speak, but Okoro quickly cut her off, shouting, "She beats me." The elders shook their heads in disbelief and turned to Amarachi. "Amarachi, Okoro says he no longer wants the marriage. What do you have to say in your defense?" Amarachi adjusted her wrapper, cleared her throat and spoke boldly. "My elders, I greet you. You all should know by now that Okoro is a liar. He only complains here because I refuse to let him keep maltreating me. This man was out to kill me. I cleared over 20 plots of land myself because he refused to hire workers. Still, I would cook, fetch water, and do every house chores. And at night, Okoro would lie down on the bed and command me to climb on top of him and satisfy him. Ewo!" the elders shouted in unison, slapping their thighs. One of them pointed to Okoro, his jaw dropping. "Okoro, is it true? Your wife says she's the one always on top of the bed, doing the man work. Alo, Tofiakwa. Are you sure you are a man?" Okoro bent his head in shame, unable to meet their eyes. Amarachi, innocent of what they were saying, looked confused. "What is wrong, my elders? What did I say?" An elder shook his head sadly. Poor woman. She doesn't even know. Amarachi, listen. A man is supposed to be on top of his wife, not the woman always on the man. Mba, it is not our tradition. Okoro, how wicked can you be? She is your wife and not your sex toy. Aye. Sofiakwa. The elder spat on the ground in disgust. Amarachi's eyes widened as she placed a hand on her chest. Hey, my elders, you see, I didn't even know it was wrong, and yet he says I am the problem. All I ask is simple. I cannot be married to a rich man and still live like a beggar. Okoro should provide money for food, take care of me as his wife, and not treat me like a slave. If he does that, we are good. As for living, I am not going anywhere. You see this marriage, I am grounded like an iroko tree. I am not going anywhere. The elders exchanged glances, nodded, and then declared, This matter is settled. Okoro, perform your manly duties as a husband. Amarachi will remain in her husband's house. And so, the meeting was ruled in Amarachi's favor, and the two of them returned home quietly, though nothing in Umuofia was quiet after what had just happened. Okoro was drowning in shame. The once fierce rooster of Umuofia had become the village clown. At the palm wine joints, where he once reigned supreme, the men who used to hail him now mocked him openly. Okoro, the mighty rooster with broken wings. They jeered. Okoro, who cannot even satisfy his wife, others laughed, slapping their thighs. The children, men and women, now sang with his name under the moonlight at night, when they gathered around the fire to dance in the village square. They would sing and clap their hands and shake their body, clearly having so much fun.
Amara the lioness, she shook Okoro to his very core. Strong like yam, sweet like wine. Her hands are blessed, her star will shine.
Amara done win.
She turned the rooster
To a chicken fin.
dance, oh children,
Dance, so sing.
Amara is queen, she rules the ring.
Okoro shout. Amara roar. The iron rooster fights no more. Clap your hands. Stomp the ground. Amarachi's name goes round and round. Okoro shout. Amara roar. The iron rooster fights no more. Clap your hands. Stomp the ground. Amarachi's name goes round and round.
Kokoroko.
Okoro shout. Amara roar. The iron rooster fights no more. Clap your hands. Stomp the ground. Amarachi's name goes round and round.
Kokoroko. Kokoroko.
Life had gone completely down the drain for Okoro, while Amarachi's star rose higher and higher. Everywhere she went, women hailed her like a queen. At the stream, they carried her pots for her. In the markets, traders pressed gifts into her hands: vegetables, meat, even jewelry. Take, Amara, take. "You are a heroine," they chorused. No one dared mock her anymore. Even the same maidens who once called her Mbeke now bowed their heads when she passed. Life became sweet for Amarachi. But for Okoro, the shame was bitter medicine. Alone at night, his thoughts troubled him. He remembered how his father used to treat his mother like a slave, and how he had grown up believing that a man's power was measured by how well he controlled his wife. That was a lesson he lived by. But Amarachi had shattered that belief. With all his wealth, with all his beauty, he had become a laughingstock. Amarachi had proved him wrong. Something cracked inside him. For the first time, Okoro began to think deeply about change. He decided to take responsibility, not just for Amarachi, but for all his abandoned children scattered across the village. He would turn a new leaf. He would be a better husband, a better father, and a better man. So one day, Okoro shocked the entire kingdom. He strolled into the market, his head high. But instead of boasting or scattering insults, he bought baskets of foodstuffs, bundles of wrappers, fine slippers, beads, and jewelry for Amarachi. The villagers' eyes nearly popped out. Is this truly Okoro? Okoro buying gifts for his wife, wonders shall never end. Back home, Amarachi could not believe her eyes. She danced, she sang, she clapped her hands until her palms turned red. Is this a dream or what? She asked, pinching herself. That evening, she cooked a special delicacy fit for kings. And what shocked the neighbors most was that Okoro the Iron Rooster entered the kitchen and actually helped her. The two of them joked and laughed as they stirred the pots. Later, they sat side by side eating from the same plates, laughing loudly like childhood friends. The neighbors peeped over their fences, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. The next morning, just as Amarachi lifted her pot to fetch water from the stream, Okoro stepped forward and joined her. "My husband, you don't have to do this," Amarachi said, startled. "It's fine," Okoro replied, taking the pot from her hand. "I should be a better man. If you can do it every day, then why can't I?" Amarachi's mouth fell open. She pinched herself again, wondering if she was still in the land of the living or maybe she has died and she didn't know. Together they walked to the stream, chattering and laughing like newlyweds. People they passed along the road stopped dead in their tracks, then turned around to follow them with their eyes. Is this Okoro? Wonders shall never end. And so, Okoro changed entirely and became a true husband in every sense of the word. No longer the roaring iron rooster of old. He now walked beside Amarachi like a man who had finally found wisdom. He supported her in her farm work, and not just with words. He hired laborers to assist, bought them new tools, and together they worked side by side. You should have seen their harvest. Yams, as long as a man's arm, heaps of cassava taller than a child, baskets of vegetables fresh and green. The entire village was wowed. They said Amarachi's hands were truly blessed. But they also knew that Okoro's new humility had brought fresh favor into their home. The couple became a force, united, loving, and supportive of each other. They grew even wealthier than before. Their days of fighting and quarreling came to an end, and the same villagers who once mocked them now adored them as a perfect power couple of Umuofia. Their friendship was something else. Like two people who had been enemies in another life, but finally discovered they were meant to be partners. Laughter filled their compound. Children ran about joyfully, and their home became a place of peace instead of pain. Okoro had gotten to his last bus stop. He no longer needed to search, boast, or pretend. And if you want a proof of his transformation, you should have seen him at the palm wine joint. The man who once boasted of endless palm trees and his riches now raised his calabash and declared with pride, "I am not sure there is any woman like Amarachi on this planet Earth. She is the best thing that has ever happened to me." And the men who once laughed at his disgrace now clapped and hailed him, Okoro Odogu, the preacher of love they shared. For the wife beater had turned into a husband who finally understood what love meant and was now a preacher of love. Hey besties, thank you for watching this amazing story and I hope you enjoyed it. I would love you to share your thoughts in the comment section. And if you watch our stories and you enjoy it but you are yet to subscribe to our channel, do not skip this video without hitting on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Thank you so much for all your love and support. It means so much to me and I do not take them for granted. Right now, I have to go and see you in our next story. Bye!